The 8-year-old girl stood in the marble lobby of the luxury corporate building at 2 a.m., her worn sneakers squeaking against the polished floor. Her mother pushed a heavy cleaning cart past glass offices filled with expensive furniture and awards. The little girl clutched a crumpled piece of paper covered in different scripts and symbols, practicing pronunciation under her breath. When the elevator dinged and footsteps echoed through the empty hallway, she had no idea her life was about to change forever. The man approaching would soon discover that this child of a night cleaner possessed a gift that would shock him to his core and challenge everything he believed about potential and privilege. Can you imagine having such incredible talent but no one believing in you? What would you do if you discovered a hidden genius in the most unexpected place? Share your thoughts in the comments below and don't forget to subscribe for more inspiring stories that will restore your faith in human potential. Aaliyah Johnson pressed her small face against the cool glass window of the towering office building, watching the city lights blur into streaks of gold and white. At 8 years old, she had spent countless nights in corporate buildings just like this one, quietly following her mother Keandra through empty hallways and vacant conference rooms. "Baby, stay close to Mama," Keandra whispered, pulling her cleaning cart behind her with practiced efficiency. Her Navy uniform bore the name tag K. Johnson, and showed the wear of long nights and hard work. "Mr. Al-Mansouri is working late tonight, so we need to be extra quiet." Aaliyah nodded, clutching her backpack filled with library books and printed worksheets she had found in various office trash bins. While her mother cleaned, she would sit in empty conference rooms, studying language materials that busy executives had discarded. Tonight felt different though. The usually empty building had lights on in the top floor corner office. "Mama, what language do you think that man speaks?" Aaliyah asked, pointing toward the illuminated office where a figure moved behind frosted glass. "English, baby. All these business people speak English," Keandra replied, spraying cleaner on a conference table. "Now help Mama by organizing those papers over there." But Aaliyah had heard something else. As they moved closer to the executive floor, she caught fragments of conversation floating through an open door. The deep voice was speaking Arabic, then switching to what sounded like French, then back to English during what appeared to be international phone calls. Her heart raced with excitement. For 3 years, she had been secretly teaching herself languages using materials she found in office recycling bins. Language learning CDs, textbooks, international newspapers, and cultural guides that busy professionals had thrown away became her treasure trove. She had spent countless hours in public library computer labs, using free internet access to watch foreign language videos and practice pronunciation. "Mama," she whispered urgently, "I understand what he's saying." Keandra paused her cleaning and looked at her daughter with tired but loving eyes. "What do you mean, sweetheart?" "He's speaking Arabic. Something about shipping contracts from Dubai." Then he switched to French to talk about meetings in Paris. Before Keandra could respond, the office door swung open wider. A tall man in an expensive gray suit stepped into the hallway, his phone pressed to his ear. Rashid Al-Mansouri was known throughout the business district as a successful entrepreneur who had built a logistics empire connecting the Middle East with American markets. His dark hair was perfectly styled despite the late hour, and his presence commanded attention even in the empty building. He continued his phone conversation in rapid Arabic, discussing delivery schedules and customs procedures. Aaliyah listened intently, her young mind automatically translating and understanding every word. "Excuse me," Rashid said in English, noticing the cleaning crew. "I'll be working late tonight. Please don't let me disturb your work." "No problem, sir," Keandra replied respectfully. "We'll be very quiet." As they started to move past his office, Aaliyah couldn't contain herself any longer. In perfect Arabic, with proper pronunciation and formal grammar, she said, "Good evening, Mr. Al-Mansouri. I hope your shipping negotiations with the Dubai partners are successful." Rashid dropped his phone. The device clattered against the marble floor as he stared at the small African-American girl in worn jeans and a faded t-shirt. His mouth fell open in complete shock. "Did you just—" He began in English then switched to Arabic. "Did you understand my conversation?" Aaliyah nodded eagerly and responded in fluent Arabic. "Yes, sir. You were discussing container shipping routes and discussing how the port delays in Los Angeles are affecting your delivery timeline to European clients." Rashid's legs felt weak. He reached for the wall to steady himself, his mind struggling to process what he was witnessing. "This is impossible," he muttered, still in Arabic. "Would you prefer I speak French?" Aaliyah asked, seamlessly switching languages. "I heard you mention the Paris meetings. Or perhaps Spanish, German, Italian, Portuguese? I also speak Mandarin Chinese, though I know you weren't using that language tonight. Rashid laughed. Not a kind laugh, but the dismissive laugh of a man who thought he was being played by some elaborate trick. This is ridiculous. Children don't speak 8 languages. Especially not. He caught himself before saying something he might regret. Especially not children like me? Aliyah asked quietly in English, her small voice carrying a wisdom beyond her years. The shame of his assumption hit Rashid immediately. He looked at this dignified little girl, then at her mother who stood protectively nearby, and realized how badly he had misjudged the situation. I apologize, he said carefully. That was wrong of me. But surely you're not really fluent in all those languages. Aliyah's eyes lit up with the excitement of a challenge. Test me. For the next 20 minutes, Rashid conducted the most amazing conversation of his life. He spoke to Aliyah in Arabic about business practices, and she responded with sophisticated vocabulary and cultural knowledge. He switched to French and discussed literature, and she quoted passages from French novels she had read. When he tried Spanish, she discussed regional dialects. Her German was precise, her Italian musical, her Portuguese fluid, and her Mandarin pronunciation was better than some of his business associates who had lived in China for years. Each exchange left Rashid more stunned than the last. This wasn't simple memorization or party tricks. This child had deep, genuine comprehension and could express complex thoughts in each language. How? Was all he could manage to whisper. I found your old language learning materials in the recycling bin 2 years ago, Aliyah explained simply. You had thrown away a complete Arabic course, French business texts, and Spanish cultural guides. I've been teaching myself ever since. Rashid felt his world shift. He thought about all the expensive language tutors he had hired for his own children, all the elite schools and private lessons, while this remarkable child had achieved more with discarded materials and pure determination. Your daughter, he said to Kiandra in amazement, is extraordinary. Kiandra nodded proudly, though worry clouded her features. She's always been special, but we can't afford fancy schools or tutors. I do the best I can. Mr. Al-Mansuri, Aliyah said politely, my mama works very hard. She cleans buildings all night so I can have books and library time during the day. She's the smartest, strongest person I know. Looking at this beautiful, brilliant child and her devoted mother, Rashid felt something profound stir in his chest. In his executive world of privilege and advantage, he had never encountered such pure talent combined with such humble circumstances. As he watched Aliyah carefully organize her mother's cleaning supplies while chattering in Italian about a cooking show she had watched at the library, Rashid made a decision that would change all their lives forever. Mrs. Johnson, he said formally, I would like to speak with you and Aliyah about your future. 3 days later, Rashid found himself sitting in the modest one-bedroom apartment that Kiandra and Aliyah called home. The furniture was old but meticulously maintained, and every surface was spotless despite their limited resources. Books from the public library were stacked everywhere, creating small towers of knowledge throughout the tiny space. Tell me about your learning routine, Rashid asked Aliyah, who sat cross-legged on the floor with a notebook covered in different alphabets and symbols. Aliyah's face brightened as she launched into an explanation that amazed him further with each detail. I wake up at 6 a.m. and walk to the library when it opens at 9. I use their computers to watch language videos from universities around the world. Then I practice pronunciation by reading international news websites out loud. She showed him her handmade flashcards, created from cardboard she had found and decorated with careful drawings. I make vocabulary cards for each language and test myself every day. When Mama and I clean offices at night, I listen to audiobooks and podcasts on my old phone. Where did you get language learning materials? Rashid asked, though he suspected he knew the answer. Everywhere, Aliyah replied enthusiastically. People throw away amazing things. Executive offices have books about international business, cultural guides for travel, language courses they started but never finished. I also find newspapers in different languages at the coffee shop recycling bins. Kiandra watched from the small kitchen where she was preparing tea. She's been doing this for years. I used to worry she was spending too much time alone with books, but the librarians told me they'd never seen anything like her dedication. What about school? Rashid inquired. I go to Washington Elementary, Aliyah said matter-of-factly. It's okay, but they don't have language classes. My teacher, Mrs. Patterson, lets me help translate for parents who speak Spanish during conferences. She says I'm gifted, but the school doesn't have special programs. Rashid felt a familiar anger rising in his chest. Not anger at this family, but at a system that could overlook such extraordinary talent simply because of economic circumstances. "Aliyah, would you read something for me in Arabic?" he requested, pulling out a business document from his briefcase. Without hesitation, she read the complex contract language flawlessly, then explained its contents in simple English terms. Her comprehension was so advanced that she caught subtle legal implications that many adults would miss. "Now French," he said, producing a letter from his Paris office. Again, perfect pronunciation and full understanding. As she continued demonstrating her abilities in language after language, Rashid realized he was witnessing something remarkable. This wasn't just language learning. This was natural genius combined with incredible determination. "Mrs. Johnson," he said seriously, "your daughter needs opportunities that match her abilities. She's capable of achieving things most people couldn't imagine." Keandra's eyes filled with tears. "I know she's special, Mr. Al-Mansouri. I've always known. But I can barely afford rent and food. Special programs and fancy schools, that's not our world." "What if I told you it could be?" Rashid asked gently. Over the next hour he learned more about their life. Keandra had been raised by a single grandmother after her parents died in a car accident. She had worked multiple jobs since age 16, never having the chance to finish college herself. When Aliyah was born, Keandra was determined to give her daughter every opportunity she could, even if it meant sacrificing her own dreams. "I clean 4 different buildings every night," Keandra explained. "During the day I work at a laundromat and do housekeeping for 2 families. It's enough to keep us fed and housed, but there's nothing left over for extras." "Mama never complains," Aliyah added loyally. "She says education is the most important thing, so she makes sure I can always get to the library and have supplies for school." Rashid was deeply moved by their devotion to each other and their shared commitment to learning despite overwhelming obstacles. "Aliyah," he said carefully, "what do you dream about doing when you grow up?" Her eyes sparkled with excitement. "I want to be a translator for the United Nations. I want to help people from different countries understand each other. I think a lot of problems happen because people can't communicate properly." The wisdom of her answer struck Rashid profoundly. Here was a child who had identified one of the world's fundamental challenges and had already begun preparing herself to address it. "I also want to write books," she continued. "Stories that can be read in many languages so children everywhere can enjoy them. And maybe I could teach other kids how to learn languages the way I did, using things that people throw away." As the evening progressed, Rashid watched Aliyah demonstrate her learning techniques. She showed him how she had taught herself to write in Arabic script by tracing characters she found in discarded newspapers. Her Chinese characters were carefully practiced on the backs of used envelopes. She had created her own grammar guides for each language, complete with color-coded rules and exceptions. "This is beyond remarkable," Rashid murmured to Keandra. "She's not just memorizing phrases. She's developing deep linguistic understanding and cultural awareness. She's creating her own educational methodology." When it was time for him to leave, Rashid felt overwhelmed by what he had witnessed. As he walked to his luxury car parked outside their modest apartment complex, he couldn't stop thinking about the contrast between Aliyah's circumstances and her extraordinary potential. That night, he called his own children, who attended prestigious private schools with every advantage money could buy. None of them spoke more than basic conversational Spanish despite years of expensive tutoring. He thought about all the resources at his disposal, all the connections in his global business network, all the opportunities he could provide to someone with Aliyah's gifts. By morning, Rashid had made his decision. He was going to change the trajectory of this remarkable child's life, and he wasn't going to take no for an answer. The following Saturday morning, Rashid arrived at the Johnson apartment with a folder full of documents and a heart full of purpose. He had spent the entire week making phone calls, researching schools, and consulting with educational experts about the best path forward for Aliyah. "Mrs. Johnson, Aliyah," he began formally as they sat in their small living room, "I have a proposal that I hope you'll consider carefully." Keandra held her daughter's hand, both excited and nervous about what this successful businessman might suggest. "First," Rashid said, opening his folder, "I would like to offer Aliyah a full scholarship to Riverside Academy, one of the finest private schools in the city. They have an exceptional language program and advanced academic tracks for gifted students." Aliyah's eyes widened with wonder, but she looked to her mother before responding. "The tuition alone is $40,000 per year," Rashid continued, "plus books, supplies, and activities. Everything would be covered completely." "Mr. Al-Mansouri," Keandra said slowly, "that's incredibly generous, but we couldn't possibly accept such an expensive gift. Please let me finish, he said kindly. I've also arranged for private tutoring with native speakers in each of the languages Aaliyah is studying. Dr. Marina Volkov will work with her on Russian, Professor Chinwei will advance her Mandarin skills, and Senora Isabella Rodriguez will refine her Spanish and Portuguese. He pulled out more papers. Additionally, I've secured summer cultural immersion programs. This summer, if you agree, Aaliyah could spend 2 weeks in Morocco practicing Arabic, 2 weeks in France improving her French, and 2 weeks in Germany enhancing her German skills. All expenses paid, with proper supervision and educational structure. Aaliyah bounced slightly in her seat with excitement, but remained respectfully quiet. Now, Mrs. Johnson, Rashid continued, I know that accepting help for Aaliyah is wonderful, but I also understand that you need to support your family. I'm offering you a position as Administrative Director of Cultural Programs at my company, Al-Mansouri International Logistics. Keandra's mouth fell open in shock. The position involves coordinating international communications, managing cultural training for our global teams, and overseeing our new educational outreach programs. The starting salary is $75,000 per year, plus health benefits, retirement contributions, and professional development opportunities. I don't have a college degree, Keandra whispered. You have something more valuable, Rashid replied earnestly. You have integrity, dedication, and the wisdom to raise an extraordinary daughter under challenging circumstances. You understand different cultures through your work experiences, and you have natural leadership abilities. My human resources director was impressed with your background when I described your work ethic and character. He pulled out another document. I'm also providing a 3-bedroom apartment in the Harbor View complex, which is walking distance from Aaliyah's new school and close to our office building. The rent will be paid for 2 years while you establish yourself in your new position. Aaliyah looked between her mother and Rashid with tears of joy in her eyes. There's more, Rashid said gently. I'd like to establish an educational fund for Aaliyah's future university expenses. Whether she chooses Harvard, Oxford, the Sorbonne, or any institution that matches her interests, the costs will be covered. Keandra was crying now, overwhelmed by the magnitude of what was being offered. Why, she managed to ask. Why would you do all this for us? Rashid's expression grew serious and heartfelt. Because 3 nights ago, I met a child who taught herself 8 languages using materials from recycling bins. I met a mother who works 4 jobs to ensure her daughter could access a library. I realized that extraordinary talent exists everywhere, but opportunity doesn't. He leaned forward earnestly. In my business, I've worked with highly educated people from around the world. I've never encountered anyone with Aaliyah's natural linguistic abilities and cultural understanding. She represents the kind of global citizen our world desperately needs. Also, he added with a slight smile, I have been blessed with success, and I believe that success creates responsibility. I can provide these opportunities easily, and they will transform your lives while potentially benefiting countless other people through Aaliyah's future contributions. Mama, Aaliyah whispered, can we say yes? Keandra looked at her daughter's hopeful face, then at Rashid's sincere expression. This is more than we ever dreamed possible. Then you'll accept? Rashid asked. Yes, Keandra said, her voice strong despite her tears. We accept with complete gratitude. Thank you for believing in Aaliyah and for giving us this chance. And Mrs. Johnson, Rashid added, you're not just accepting charity. You're accepting an opportunity to build something meaningful. Your new position is real work with real responsibilities. I expect excellence from all my employees, and I know you'll exceed those expectations. As they signed papers and discussed practical details, Aaliyah sat quietly absorbing the magnitude of what was happening. Finally, she spoke up in perfect Arabic, Mr. Al-Mansouri, I promise to work harder than ever and to make you proud of your decision. Aaliyah, he replied in the same language, I'm already proud. Your determination and humility are as impressive as your linguistic gifts. This is not the end of your hard work. It's the beginning of even greater challenges and achievements. That afternoon, as Rashid left their apartment for the last time, he felt a deep satisfaction. He had just set in motion a series of changes that would ripple through multiple lives for years to come. 3 weeks later, Keandra Johnson walked into her new office at Al-Mansouri International Logistics, wearing a professional suit and carrying herself with quiet dignity. In another part of the city, Aaliyah Johnson walked through the gates of Riverside Academy, her backpack filled with advanced textbooks and her heart filled with possibilities. Neither of them looked back with regret, only forward with determination and gratitude. The Harbor View apartment felt like a palace compared to their previous home. Aaliyah ran from room to room, marveling at the space and light streaming through large windows that overlooked the city's waterfront district. Her own bedroom had a desk, bookshelf, and enough space for all her language materials to be properly organized for the first time in years. "Mama, look," she called excitedly, "I can see my new school from this window." Keandra stood in the kitchen, still adjusting to the reality of having modern appliances and ample cabinet space. "It's beautiful, baby. Are you nervous about starting tomorrow?" "A little," Aaliyah admitted, "but mostly excited. Mr. Al-Mansouri said they have a real language lab with computers and headphones for listening practice." That evening they unpacked their belongings, which looked sparse in their new spacious home. Rashid had thoughtfully arranged for basic furniture and household items to be waiting for them, but he had been careful not to overwhelm them with excessive luxury. "We'll earn everything else we add to this home," Keandra told her daughter as they organized Aaliyah's books on her new shelves. "This is a fresh start, not a handout." The next morning, Aaliyah wore her new Riverside Academy uniform with pride. The navy blazer and gray skirt made her feel official and important. As they walked the 6 blocks to school together, Keandra gave her daughter final words of encouragement. "Remember, sweetheart, you belong here. Your mind and your character earned you this opportunity. Be yourself, work hard, and treat everyone with kindness." At the school entrance, they met Dr. Elizabeth Harper, the principal, and Mrs. Amanda Foster, who would be Aaliyah's homeroom teacher and English instructor. "Welcome to Riverside Academy, Aaliyah," Dr. Harper said warmly. "We're excited to have you join our community. Your placement test scores were remarkable." "Thank you, ma'am," Aaliyah replied politely. "I'm ready to learn." As Keandra kissed her daughter goodbye and watched her walk into the prestigious academic building, she felt a mixture of pride and nervous anticipation. Then she turned toward her own new challenge. At Al-Mansouri International Logistics, Keandra was greeted by Rebecca Martinez, the human resources director who had enthusiastically supported Rashid's decision to hire her. "Mrs. Johnson, welcome to our team," Rebecca said, leading her through the modern office space. "Your role is unique and important. You'll be creating programs that help our international partners understand American business culture, while also helping our domestic teams appreciate the cultural perspectives of our global clients." Keandra's office was modest but professional, with a computer, phone system, and wall space for charts and reference materials. Through her window, she could see the building where she had worked as a cleaner just a month earlier. "The irony isn't lost on me," she confided to Rebecca. "I used to clean these offices at night. Now I have my own." "Mr. Al-Mansouri values authentic experience over formal credentials," Rebecca replied. "He believes you understand working people's perspectives in ways that will benefit our entire organization." Meanwhile, at Riverside Academy, Aaliyah was experiencing her first day of academic challenge at an appropriate level. In advanced mathematics, she worked through problems that actually required thought and effort. In her literature class, she engaged in discussions about themes and symbolism that went beyond basic comprehension. But it was in her language arts period that she truly shone. When Mrs. Foster asked if anyone could translate a passage from a French novel they were studying, Aaliyah not only translated it perfectly but also explained cultural references that gave deeper meaning to the text. "Aaliyah," Mrs. Foster said after class, "your language skills are extraordinary. Have you considered participating in our Model United Nations program? We could use someone with your abilities." "I'd love that," Aaliyah replied eagerly. "Which country would I represent?" "Actually, I think you should represent multiple countries," Mrs. Foster said with a smile. "You could rotate between different delegations depending on the issues being discussed." At lunch, Aaliyah sat quietly at first, observing her new classmates. She noticed the casual confidence that came with privilege, but she also detected genuine friendliness from several students. "Are you the new girl who speaks like 10 languages?" asked a classmate named Jordan Chong, settling at her table with his lunch tray. "8 languages," Aaliyah corrected modestly, "and I'm still learning." "That's amazing. I'm Jordan. I've been trying to learn Korean to talk with my grandmother, but it's really hard." "I could help you," Aaliyah offered naturally. "I don't speak Korean yet, but I know techniques for learning any language efficiently." Soon, other students joined their conversation. Aaliyah found herself explaining her learning methods and sharing stories about discovering language materials in unexpected places. Rather than being embarrassed about her humble background, she spoke about it with quiet dignity that impressed her new classmates. That afternoon, both mother and daughter returned to their new home with stories of successful first days. How was work, Mama? Aaliyah asked as they prepared dinner together. Challenging but exciting, Keandra replied. I'm developing a cultural sensitivity training program for employees who work with international clients. I never thought my experiences cleaning offices in different neighborhoods would become professional qualifications. And school was wonderful, Aaliyah shared. The teachers actually encourage questions, and the other students want to learn from each other instead of competing. As they sat down to eat, both realized how dramatically their lives had transformed, yet how much their core values remained unchanged. We still say grace, we still clean up after ourselves, and we still remember where we came from, Keandra said firmly. Opportunities change circumstances, but they don't change character. That evening, Rashid called to check on their first day. Hearing the excitement and gratitude in both their voices, he felt deeply satisfied with his decision. This is just the beginning, he told them. The real work starts now. 3 months into the school year, Aaliyah had not only adapted to Riverside Academy but had begun to excel beyond everyone's expectations. Her teachers gathered for a special meeting to discuss her remarkable progress and consider acceleration options. In 30 years of teaching, I've never seen anything like this, reported Mr. David Kim, her advanced mathematics instructor. She completed our entire Algebra 2 curriculum in 6 weeks and has moved into calculus concepts. Her problem-solving approaches are creative and sophisticated. Dr. Sarah Mitchell, who taught her advanced placement European history, nodded in agreement. She analyzes historical events with multiple cultural perspectives. When we studied the Crusades, she provided insights from Arabic historical sources that I had to verify with university professors. She was correct on all counts. Mrs. Foster added her observations. Her language skills continue to amaze everyone. She's helping 3 different students with their foreign language studies, and she's created her own Spanish conversation group during lunch periods. Dr. Harper listened to these reports with growing excitement. What are you all recommending? We think she should skip 9th grade entirely and move directly into our advanced sophomore programs, Mr. Kim suggested. She's academically ready and socially she's more mature than students her own age. I agree, Dr. Mitchell said. She should also begin our dual enrollment program with the university. Their linguistics department has expressed interest in having her audit advanced courses. Meanwhile, across town, Keandra was experiencing her own professional breakthrough. In her quarterly review meeting, she sat across from Rashid and Rebecca Martinez, receiving feedback that exceeded her own expectations. Your cultural programs have increased our client satisfaction ratings by 23%, Rashid reported, consulting his documents. Companies specifically request to work with us because of our cultural competency services. The International Trade Association wants you to speak at their annual conference, Rebecca added. They're impressed with your innovative approaches to cross-cultural business communication. Keandra felt a surge of pride and confidence. I love this work. Every day I help people understand each other better. It's challenging but meaningful. There's something else, Rashid said with a slight smile. I'm promoting you to Director of International Relations, with a salary increase to $90,000 annually. You've earned it through excellent performance, not as a favor. That evening, both mother and daughter had exciting news to share over dinner. They want me to skip a grade and start taking university classes, Aaliyah announced, barely able to contain her excitement. And I got promoted to director, Keandra added, beaming with pride. We're both growing so fast. Are you scared about university classes? Keandra asked her daughter. A little but mostly excited. The linguistics professor wants me to help with research on language acquisition in children. I might contribute to a real academic study. Their conversation was interrupted by a phone call from Rashid. Congratulations on your promotion, Mrs. Johnson, he said warmly. You've exceeded all expectations. Thank you, Mr. Al-Mansuri. I couldn't have imagined this a year ago. There's something else, he continued. I've been contacted by a documentary filmmaker who wants to feature Aaliyah's story. Would you be interested in participating? Aaliyah, who was listening nearby, nodded enthusiastically. What kind of documentary? Keandra asked cautiously. It's about gifted children from unexpected backgrounds who achieve remarkable things through determination and opportunity. The filmmaker wants to highlight how talent exists everywhere, but access to resources makes the difference. After discussing the details and safeguards for Aaliyah's privacy and education, they agreed to participate in limited filming. 2 weeks later, cameras followed Aaliyah through a typical day at Riverside Academy, capturing her advanced mathematics class, her leadership in the Spanish conversation group, and her after-school tutoring sessions with native speakers that Rashid had arranged. The most powerful moment came when the interviewer asked about her learning methods. "I learned that knowledge is everywhere, even in trash bins," Aliyah said simply. "But I also learned that having someone believe in you makes everything possible. My mama always believed in me, and Mr. Al-Mansuri gave us the chance to prove what we could do." When asked about her future goals, her response showed the same wisdom and ambition that had impressed Rashid months earlier. "I want to use language as a bridge between cultures. There are so many misunderstandings in the world because people can't communicate effectively. I think I can help solve some of those problems." The documentary also featured Keandra's transformation from night cleaner to international relations director. "Opportunities don't change who you are," she reflected on camera. "They reveal who you've always been capable of becoming. My daughter's brilliance was always there. My leadership abilities were always there. We just needed someone to recognize them and provide the platform to demonstrate them." By the end of 5th grade, Aliyah had completed coursework equivalent to a high school junior. She spoke 10 languages fluently, having added Japanese and Russian to her repertoire. She had published her first academic paper on childhood language acquisition, co-authored with university linguistics professors. More importantly, she had maintained her humility, kindness, and close relationship with her mother throughout her rapid academic advancement. "Success hasn't changed us," Keandra observed as they celebrated Aliyah's exceptional report card. "It's just given us a bigger platform to be ourselves." That summer, true to his earlier promises, Rashid arranged for Aliyah's first cultural immersion experience. She spent 2 weeks in Morocco, 2 weeks in France, and 2 weeks in Germany, living with carefully selected host families and attending intensive language and cultural programs. When she returned, she was not just more fluent in those languages, but had developed a sophisticated understanding of cultural nuances that would serve her well in her future diplomatic aspirations. "This is just the beginning," Rashid told them as they reviewed plans for the upcoming school year. "Aliyah's potential is limitless, and your family's success story is inspiring others to believe in unexpected possibilities." As autumn arrived, Rashid found himself spending more time with the Johnson family beyond their professional relationship. What had begun as mentorship had evolved into genuine friendship and something resembling extended family. Every Friday evening, Rashid joined Aliyah and Keandra for dinner at their apartment. These meals had become a cherished tradition where they shared stories, discussed current events in multiple languages, and planned for Aliyah's continued growth. "Mr. Al-Mansuri," Aliyah said one evening as they finished a meal of Keandra's homemade lasagna, "tell us about your childhood again. I love hearing about Lebanon." Rashid smiled, settling back in his chair. "I was about your age when my family left Beirut. We came to America with 2 suitcases and determination. My father cleaned restaurants at night and drove a taxi during the day while my mother took care of other people's children." "Just like us," Aliyah observed thoughtfully. "Exactly like you," Rashid confirmed. "The difference was that I had parents who spoke Arabic at home, so I maintained that language naturally. You taught yourself Arabic from discarded materials, which is far more impressive." Keandra served tea as she listened to this familiar but always meaningful conversation. "How did your parents feel when you became successful?" "They were proud, but they also never forgot where we came from," Rashid replied. "My father used to say that success without purpose is just wealth. Real success means lifting others as you climb." "Is that why you helped us?" Aliyah asked directly. Rashid considered the question seriously. "I helped you because your talent deserved opportunity. But you've helped me remember why success matters. Through your achievements, I'm honoring my parents' sacrifices and my cultural values about community responsibility." These conversations deepened their connection beyond the traditional mentor-student relationship. Rashid began sharing more personal stories about his business struggles, his divorced marriage, and his complicated relationship with his own children who lived with their mother in California. "My son Omar is 16 and speaks only English, despite having Arabic tutors since age 5, he confided one evening. "My daughter Layla is 14 and has no interest in our Lebanese heritage. They have every advantage but no appreciation for their cultural identity. Maybe they just need different motivation," Aliyah suggested thoughtfully. "When I was learning languages from recycling bins, I was desperate to communicate and understand. When you have everything provided, maybe you don't feel that same hunger." Her insight impressed Rashid once again. "You may be right. Struggle creates appreciation in ways that comfort cannot." As winter approached, Rashid made a surprising invitation. "I'm hosting a holiday gathering for my international business partners. Would you both join me as my guests?" Aliyah, there will be people from 12 different countries. It could be an excellent opportunity to practice your language skills in natural conversations. Both Keandra and Aliyah accepted eagerly. The elegant party at Rashid's penthouse apartment showcased the global nature of his business empire. Guests from Morocco, France, Germany, Italy, China, Japan, Brazil, Mexico, and several other countries mingled while discussing trade deals and cultural exchanges. Aliyah moved through the gathering with poise that amazed the adults present. She conversed in fluent Arabic with partners from Dubai, discussed literature in French with executives from Paris, and explained American cultural perspectives in perfect Mandarin to business leaders from Beijing. "Rashid," commented Dr. Hassan al-Zahra, a prominent Moroccan businessman, "this young lady is remarkable. Her Arabic is more sophisticated than my own nephew who studied in Cairo for 4 years." "She's extraordinary," agreed Madame Claire Dubois from the French delegation. "Her understanding of European cultural nuances shows remarkable depth for someone so young." Throughout the evening, Aliyah served as an informal cultural interpreter, helping different business partners understand each other's perspectives and communication styles. She facilitated conversations that led to 3 new international contracts for Rashid's company. "You realize," Keandra whispered to Rashid as they watched Aliyah help resolve a misunderstanding between German and Japanese partners, "she's doing exactly what she dreamed of doing. She's helping people from different cultures understand each other." At age 9, Rashid marveled. Most adults never develop these skills. After the guests left, the 3 of them sat in Rashid's living room, reflecting on the successful evening. "That was amazing," Aliyah said, still energized by the international conversations. "I learned so much about different business customs and cultural expectations. You also contributed significantly to my business relationships," Rashid told her seriously. "Several partners specifically asked about you and expressed interest in working with someone who understands cultural nuances so well." "Are you saying I could have a job already?" Aliyah asked excitedly. "I'm saying you've demonstrated abilities that highly paid consultants struggle to develop," Rashid replied. "Your future options are limitless." As they prepared to leave, Rashid felt a deep emotional connection to this remarkable family. They had filled a void in his life that he hadn't fully recognized. Their authenticity, gratitude, and genuine affection had become precious to him. "Mrs. Johnson, Aliyah," he said formally, "I want you to know that helping you has been one of the most rewarding experiences of my life. You've given me far more than I've given you." "What do you mean?" Keandra asked. "You've reminded me why success matters and what family really means," he answered honestly. "My own children take everything for granted, but you both appreciate every opportunity and work constantly to deserve the chances you've been given." That night, as Aliyah and Keandra returned to their apartment, they reflected on how much their relationship with Rashid had deepened beyond professional mentorship. "He's become like family," Aliyah observed. "Yes," Keandra agreed. "But we've also become his family in some ways. I think he needed us as much as we needed him." Their bond had grown into something beautiful and meaningful for all 3 of them. What had started as a chance encounter in an office hallway had developed into a relationship built on mutual respect, shared values, and genuine care for each other's well-being. Spring of Aliyah's 6th grade year brought unexpected opportunities that would expand her world even further. Dr. Maria Santos, the linguistics professor at the local university where Aliyah had been auditing advanced courses, called with exciting news. "Aliyah, there's an international youth language competition in Geneva, Switzerland, this summer. It's for students aged 12-18, but given your abilities, they're willing to make an exception for you to participate." Aliyah's eyes widened with excitement as she listened on speakerphone with her mother and Rashid present. "What would the competition involve?" Keandra asked. "Participants demonstrate proficiency in multiple languages through written tests, oral presentations, cultural knowledge assessments, and real-time translation challenges. Winners receive scholarship opportunities to prestigious international universities." "I want to do it," Aliyah said immediately, then looked to her mother for approval. "Of course you do," Keandra smiled. "And of course you should." Rashid had been quietly listening, but now he spoke up. "I'll handle all travel and accommodation arrangements." This is exactly the kind of opportunity Aliyah should pursue. Over the next 2 months, Aliyah prepared intensively for the competition. Her tutors worked with her on advanced grammar structures, cultural protocols, and formal presentation techniques in each of her 10 languages. "Remember," advised Dr. Volkov during a Russian practice session, "in international competitions, they test not just language ability but cultural understanding and diplomatic communication skills." Aaliyah absorbed every piece of advice, practicing hours each day while maintaining her excellent grades in her accelerated high school courses. The week before departure, the local newspaper ran a feature story about the young prodigy from their city who would represent American youth in international competition. "Local girl speaks 10 languages, heads to world competition," read the headline, accompanied by photos of Aaliyah studying in the library and practicing with her tutors. The article detailed her remarkable journey from discovering language materials and recycling bins to becoming an internationally recognized linguistic talent. "I want to show that amazing abilities can come from anywhere," Aaliyah was quoted as saying. "Young people shouldn't be limited by their circumstances if they have determination and someone willing to believe in them." At the Geneva competition, Aaliyah found herself among 200 exceptional young linguists from 45 countries. Many were older, most came from privileged backgrounds with years of expensive tutoring, and all were academically gifted. The first challenge involved simultaneous translation between randomly assigned language pairs. Aaliyah drew Arabic to French, then German to Spanish, then Mandarin to English. She completed each translation flawlessly, capturing not just literal meanings but cultural subtleties that impressed the international panel of judges. "Remarkable," commented Dr. Francesco Rinaldi from the Italian delegation. "She doesn't just translate words, she translates meaning and cultural context." The second challenge required participants to give impromptu speeches on assigned topics in 3 different languages. Aaliyah spoke about global communication in Arabic, cultural understanding in French, and international cooperation in German. Her presentations were both linguistically sophisticated and substantively thoughtful. During the cultural knowledge portion, contestants answered questions about traditions, history, and social customs from the countries whose languages they spoke. Aaliyah's responses demonstrated deep understanding that went far beyond memorization. "How did an American child develop such authentic knowledge of Moroccan business etiquette?" asked one judge after her detailed explanation of North African commercial traditions. "I learned from Mr. Al-Mansouri's business partners," she replied simply. "They taught me that language is meaningless without understanding the culture behind it." The final challenge was the most difficult. Real-time mediation between speakers of different languages who were discussing a simulated international trade dispute. Participants had to facilitate understanding while maintaining diplomatic neutrality. Aaliyah was assigned to mediate between French, Arabic, and Mandarin speakers discussing agricultural trade agreements. Not only did she translate accurately, but she identified cultural misunderstandings that were creating unnecessary conflict and helped the parties find common ground. When the results were announced 3 days later, Aaliyah had achieved something unprecedented. She placed first in every single category and won the overall championship by the largest margin in the competition's 25-year history. "Ladies and gentlemen," announced Dr. Heinrich Müller, the competition director, "this year's champion has demonstrated linguistic abilities and cultural understanding that would be remarkable in a graduate student, much less a 10-year-old child." As Aaliyah accepted her trophy and scholarship certificates, she thought about her mother watching via live stream back home, and about Rashid who had made this incredible opportunity possible. "I want to thank my mama who taught me that education is the most important thing, and Mr. Rashid Al-Mansouri who believed in me when I was just a little girl with big dreams," she said into the microphone, speaking in English then repeating her thanks in Arabic, French, Spanish, German, Italian, Portuguese, Mandarin, Russian, and Japanese. The audience gave her a standing ovation that lasted several minutes. Back home, Keandra wept with pride as she watched the live stream from Rashid's office, surrounded by colleagues who had gathered to support their young champion. "She did it," Keandra whispered. "Our baby girl won." "She didn't just win," Rashid said, his own eyes moist with emotion. "She dominated. And she represented our values beautifully." When Aaliyah returned home with her trophies and scholarship offers from universities around the world, the local community organized a celebration at the city hall. The mayor presented her with a key to the city, and the school board announced the establishment of the Aaliyah Johnson Multilingual Excellence Program, to identify and support other linguistically gifted students from underserved communities. "This is what happens," Aaliyah told the crowd of supporters, "when talent meets opportunity and when people believe in each other's potential." That evening, as the 3 of them sat in their familiar Friday dinner setting, they reflected on how far they had all come. "You know," Rashid said thoughtfully, "when I first heard you speaking Arabic in that hallway, I never imagined it would lead to this level of international recognition." "I knew," Keandra said quietly. "I always knew she was destined for something special. I just didn't know what form it would take. And this is still just the beginning," Aaliyah added with characteristic confidence and humility. There's so much more I want to learn and accomplish. 2 years later, at age 12, Aaliyah was simultaneously completing her senior year of high school through advanced placement courses and beginning her freshman year at the local university with a full academic scholarship. Her unprecedented academic acceleration had attracted attention from educational institutions worldwide. Keandra had also continued her remarkable professional growth. Her innovative cultural programs at Al Mansouri International Logistics had become so successful that companies across the country were requesting her consultation services. Mrs. Johnson, Rashid announced during a board meeting where Keandra was presenting her quarterly results, I'm promoting you to Vice President of Global Cultural Integration. Your programs have increased our international contracts by 40% and established us as the premier culturally competent logistics company in North America. The promotion came with a salary increase to $125,000 annually and stock options in the company. More importantly, it included opportunities to travel internationally, establishing cultural training programs for multinational corporations around the world. I'm honored and grateful, Keandra responded professionally. This work allows me to use everything I've learned about bringing different communities together. Meanwhile, Aaliyah's academic achievements had attracted the attention of the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization, UNESCO. Dr. Amara Okafor, UNESCO's Director of Multilingual Education, visited their city specifically to meet with the young linguistic prodigy. Aaliyah, Dr. Okafor said during their meeting at the university, we would like you to serve as a youth ambassador for global language preservation. Many indigenous and minority languages are disappearing because younger generations aren't learning them. We believe your story and abilities could inspire language learning worldwide. The position would involve traveling to different countries during school breaks, working with UNESCO teams to document endangered languages and create educational programs to preserve them. This is exactly what I want to do, Aaliyah replied enthusiastically. Languages are like bridges between cultures. When they disappear, we lose connections between people. Her first UNESCO assignment took her to Romania, where she spent 3 weeks learning Aromanian, an endangered Romance language spoken by fewer than 50,000 people. Within 2 weeks, she was conversational, and by the end of her stay, she had helped create educational materials for Aromanian children. This child is remarkable, reported Dr. Elena Popescu, the Romanian linguistics professor who worked with Aaliyah. She doesn't just learn languages, she absorbs cultural identity and helps preserve it for future generations. During her freshman year at university, Aaliyah published her second academic paper, this time on the psychological and social benefits of multilingual education in diverse communities. The research, conducted with guidance from her professors, was based on her observations from UNESCO fieldwork and her analysis of language learning patterns among immigrant families. The paper was accepted for presentation at the International Conference on Applied Linguistics, making Aaliyah the youngest presenter in the conference's history. Ladies and gentlemen, she began her presentation to an audience of PhD linguists and education policy experts. Language learning isn't just about communication. It's about building empathy, understanding cultural perspectives, and creating global citizens who can solve international problems. Her presentation received a standing ovation and resulted in invitations to speak at universities across North America and Europe. That spring, Rashid made an announcement that surprised both Keandra and Aaliyah during one of their Friday dinners. I've decided to expand Al Mansouri International Logistics into educational services, he told them. I want to create a non-profit foundation that identifies and supports exceptionally gifted children from underserved communities. What would this foundation do? Keandra asked. Exactly what we did for Aaliyah, but on a larger scale, Rashid explained. We'll provide scholarships, tutoring, cultural programs and family support services. We'll look for children whose talents are being overlooked because of economic circumstances. I want to help, Aaliyah said immediately. I could work with the language students and help develop teaching materials. That's exactly what I hoped you'd say, Rashid smiled. I want you both to be founding board members of the Al Mansouri Foundation for Exceptional Youth. The foundation launched 6 months later with an initial endowment of $5 million from Rashid's personal wealth. Keandra took on the additional role of executive director, while continuing her corporate responsibilities on a part-time basis. Their first year, the foundation identified and began supporting 25 exceptionally gifted children from low-income families across the city. They provided educational scholarships, tutoring services, cultural enrichment programs and family support services. Aaliyah became the foundation's spokesperson and peer mentor, working with children who showed exceptional abilities in languages, mathematics, sciences, and arts. Every one of these children has the potential to change the world, she told a gathering of foundation donors. They just need someone to believe in them and provide the opportunities to develop their gifts. The foundation's success attracted national attention. The Department of Education invited Keandra to serve on a federal advisory committee on gifted education in underserved communities. Aaliyah was featured on national television programs discussing youth potential and educational equity. This is what success looks like, Rashid reflected as they watched news coverage of the foundation's impact. Not just individual achievement, but using your success to lift others. By age 13, Aaliyah was completing her sophomore year of university with a perfect 4.0 GPA while simultaneously serving as a UNESCO Youth Ambassador and Foundation spokesperson. She had added 3 more languages to her repertoire and was conducting original research on cross-cultural communication patterns. More remarkably, she had maintained her humility, family closeness, and commitment to helping others throughout her rapid rise to international recognition. You know what I'm most proud of? Keandra told Rashid as they attended Aaliyah's university honors ceremony. What's that? She's still the same sweet, determined little girl who used to practice pronunciation in empty conference rooms. Success hasn't changed her character. That's because she learned character from you, Rashid replied. And that's why I know she'll continue to achieve extraordinary things while staying true to her values. At age 14, Aaliyah Johnson had become an internationally recognized expert on multilingual education and cross-cultural communication. Universities around the world were competing to recruit her for their graduate programs, despite her not yet having completed her undergraduate degree. The United Nations invited her to address the General Assembly on International Mother Language Day, making her the youngest person ever to speak before that body. Distinguished delegates, she began, speaking first in English, then repeating key points in the 6 official UN languages. Language is humanity's greatest tool for building understanding across cultures, but it's also our most underutilized resource for creating global peace. Her 20-minute address, later published as a UN document, outlined practical strategies for using multilingual education to reduce international conflicts and increase cultural cooperation. The speech was broadcast globally and viewed by over 50 million people online. More importantly, it resulted in UNESCO adopting several of her recommendations for international language preservation programs. You realize, Dr. Okafor told her after the speech, that you've just influenced international education policy at age 14? I hope so, Aaliyah replied thoughtfully. There are so many children around the world whose languages and cultures aren't being preserved. If my words help save even one endangered language, then it's worthwhile. Back home, the foundation Rashid had created was expanding rapidly. They were now supporting 150 gifted children across 5 states, with a staff of 25 educators and social workers. Keandra had become a nationally recognized expert on identifying and nurturing exceptional talent in underserved communities. Mrs. Johnson, said Dr. Patricia Williams, the Secretary of Education during a White House meeting, we'd like you to lead a national task force on gifted education equity. Your practical experience and proven results make you the ideal person for this role. The appointment meant Keandra would spend part of her time in Washington, D.C., developing federal policies to ensure that exceptional children from all backgrounds received appropriate educational support. I accept with gratitude, Keandra responded. Every child deserves the chance to develop their full potential, regardless of their family's economic circumstances. Meanwhile, Aaliyah's academic achievements continue to break records. She completed her bachelor's degree in linguistics with highest honors at age 15, graduating valedictorian with a 4.0 GPA and recommendations from professors who called her the most gifted student in university history. Harvard, Oxford, the Sorbonne, and Beijing University all offered her full scholarships for graduate studies. After careful consideration with her mother and Rashid, she chose to pursue a dual PhD program in applied linguistics and international relations, splitting her time between Harvard and the University of Geneva. Why those programs? Asked Dr. Sarah Chin, the Harvard admissions director, during Aaliyah's orientation. Because I want to understand how language shapes international policy and how effective communication can prevent conflicts, Aaliyah explained. My ultimate goal is to work in international diplomacy, using linguistic and cultural understanding to help nations resolve disputes peacefully. Her graduate research focused on developing new methods for training diplomats in cultural competency and multilingual communication. The work was so innovative that the State Department began incorporating her findings into their foreign service training programs. This 15-year-old has created diplomatic training protocols that are more effective than methods we've used for decades, admitted Ambassador Robert Martinez, the director of the Foreign Service Institute. During her first year of graduate school, Aaliyah published 3 peer-reviewed articles in top academic journals and presented research at 7 international conferences. She also continued her UNESCO work, having now documented and helped preserve 12 endangered languages across 4 continents. The media began calling her the child prodigy who became a global force for cultural understanding. More recognition came when Time magazine named her to their annual list of most influential people under 30, with a feature article titled, The Linguistic Bridge Builder. Aaliyah Johnson represents the best of human potential, the article stated. Her journey from discovering languages and recycling bins to influencing international policy demonstrates how talent, opportunity, and character can combine to create extraordinary impact. But the recognition that meant the most to Aaliyah came from an unexpected source. The Association of Former Cleaners and Service Workers, an organization she had never heard of, invited her to speak at their annual conference. "Ms. Johnson," said the invitation letter, "your mother's journey from night cleaner to international education policy leader, and your own success story, inspire service workers everywhere to believe in their children's potential and their own worth." Aaliyah accepted immediately, bringing both Keandra and Rashid with her to the conference. "Ladies and gentlemen," she told the audience of current and former service workers, "my mama cleaned offices so I could have library access and school supplies. Her work had dignity and purpose just like all your work does. Never let anyone tell you that service work is less valuable than any other honest labor." The standing ovation lasted 10 minutes, with many audience members wiping away tears. "You taught me," she continued, "that hard work, integrity, and belief in education can overcome any obstacle. Thank you for showing me that success isn't about forgetting where you come from, but about honoring the values that got you where you are." After her speech, dozens of service workers approached her with stories of their own exceptionally gifted children who needed support and encouragement. "This gives me an idea," Aaliyah told Rashid and Keandra as they drove home. "We should expand the foundation to work specifically with children of service workers. They face unique challenges but often have incredible resilience and work ethic." "I think that's brilliant," Rashid agreed. "We'll call it the Service Workers Children Excellence Initiative. And I'll make sure federal education policy addresses the specific needs of these families," Keandra added from her new position in Washington. As they reflected on the evening, all 3 realized that their success story had evolved into something larger than individual achievement. They had become advocates for recognizing and nurturing exceptional potential wherever it existed, regardless of social or economic circumstances. "You know what's amazing?" Keandra observed as they arrived home. 5 years ago I was cleaning that man's office. Now we're working together to change federal education policy and international diplomatic training. And it all started," Aaliyah added, "because I was brave enough to speak up when I heard Arabic in a hallway, and because Mr. Al-Mansuri was wise enough to listen." The best successes, Rashid concluded, happen when people recognize each other's potential and work together to develop it. 5 years later, 19-year-old Dr. Aaliyah Johnson stood at the podium of the Nobel Peace Center in Oslo, Norway, delivering the keynote address at the International Conference on Language and Diplomacy. She had completed both her PhDs in record time and had just been appointed as the youngest senior policy advisor in the history of the U.S. State Department's Office of International Cultural Affairs. "Distinguished colleagues," she began in Norwegian, then continued in English, "when I was 8 years old, I learned my first foreign language from materials I found in a recycling bin. Today, I speak 23 languages and have helped establish diplomatic protocols that are used by nations around the world to resolve conflicts through cultural understanding rather than military force." The audience of diplomats, ambassadors, and international policy experts listened intently as she outlined her vision for linguistic diplomacy as a tool for preventing international conflicts. "Language is not just communication," she explained, seamlessly switching between languages to make points that resonated with different cultural perspectives in her audience. "It's the key to understanding how different societies think, what they value, and how they solve problems. When diplomats truly understand each other's cultural languages, they can find solutions that honor all parties' core values." Her methods had already proven successful. In the past 2 years, diplomatic teams trained in her cultural competency protocols had successfully mediated 3 international trade disputes and 2 territorial negotiations that had been deadlocked for years. Back home, Keandra Johnson had been appointed as the U.S. Department of Education's first Director of Exceptional Talent Development. Her office oversaw federal programs that identified and supported gifted children from all socioeconomic backgrounds across America. Our goal, she explained in her Senate confirmation hearing, is to ensure that talent is nurtured wherever it's found, not just in communities that can afford private tutors and elite schools. Under her leadership, the federal government had dramatically increased funding for gifted education programs in underserved communities, resulting in a 300% increase in college enrollment among exceptionally talented students from low-income families. The Al-Mansouri Foundation had also grown far beyond anyone's initial vision. Now operating in 15 states, it supported over 2,000 gifted children annually and had inspired the creation of similar foundations in 12 other countries. When we started this, Rashid reflected during the foundation's 10th anniversary gala, I thought we were just helping one remarkable child and her devoted mother. I never imagined we were starting a global movement to recognize exceptional potential in unexpected places. The gala's highlight came when Aaliyah presented the foundation's newest initiative, the Global Cultural Bridge Program, which would train young people from different countries to serve as cultural interpreters and diplomatic assistants for international organizations. We're creating a generation of global citizens, she announced, who can help the world communicate more effectively and resolve conflicts more peacefully. The program's first cohort included 50 young people from 25 countries, all identified as exceptionally gifted in languages and cultural understanding. They would receive training from UNESCO, the United Nations, the State Department, and various international organizations. This is the future of diplomacy, commented Dr. Elizabeth Stern, the Swiss ambassador to the UN. Cultural competency will become as important as traditional political and economic expertise in international relations. That evening, as the three families that had become one celebrated the foundation's success, they reflected on the remarkable journey that had brought them to this point. Do you remember that night in the office building? Keandra asked Rashid and Aaliyah as they sat in the same Harbor View apartment where they had lived during Aaliyah's early school years. I remember thinking I was hallucinating, Rashid laughed. An 8-year-old speaking perfect Arabic seemed impossible. I remember being terrified that you would tell us to be quiet and go away, Aaliyah admitted. I almost didn't say anything at all. Thank goodness you found the courage, Keandra said, hugging her daughter. Look what happened because you were brave enough to speak up and because Mr. Al-Mansouri was generous enough to listen. You know what I think about most? Rashid asked thoughtfully. All the other exceptional children we might have missed if we hadn't learned to look for talent in unexpected places. As if on cue, Aaliyah's phone buzzed with a message from one of the foundation's newest scholarship recipients, a 12-year-old mathematics prodigy whose mother worked as a hospital custodian. Speaking of unexpected places, Aaliyah said, showing them the message, Maria Gonzalez just solved a calculus problem that was stumping MIT graduate students. Her teacher discovered her ability when she saw Maria correcting errors on discarded homework papers she found while helping her mom clean classrooms. Another recycling bin genius, Keandra observed with a smile. The pattern continues, Rashid added. Exceptional talent exists everywhere. We just have to be willing to recognize it and provide the support to develop it. As the evening wound down, they discussed future plans. Aaliyah would be starting her new role at the State Department while continuing her UNESCO work. Keandra would be launching a national teacher training program to help educators identify exceptional talent in all communities. Rashid would be expanding the foundation internationally. I have one more surprise, Aaliyah announced as they prepared to end the evening. Harvard University has asked me to design and teach a new graduate course called Cultural Linguistics and International Relations. I'll be the youngest professor in the university's history. That's wonderful, sweetheart, Keandra said proudly. You'll be teaching future diplomats and international leaders. Just like my mama taught me and Mr. Al-Mansouri taught me, Aaliyah replied. Success means passing knowledge and opportunities to the next generation. As Rashid prepared to leave, he looked around the apartment where they had shared so many meaningful conversations and celebrated so many achievements. You know, he said quietly, this small apartment has been the setting for planning some of the most significant educational and cultural programs of our time. Home isn't about the size of the space, Keandra replied. It's about the love and support you share with the people who matter to you. And about believing in each other's dreams, Aaliyah added. As they said their goodbyes, all three understood that their story was far from over. They had created something that would continue inspiring and supporting exceptional young people for generations to come. 6 months later, the documentary From Recycling Bin to UN Podium, the Aaliyah Johnson story, premiered at the Sundance Film Festival, winning the award for Best Documentary Feature. The film inspired the creation of similar talent identification programs in over 30 countries. But more importantly, it inspired thousands of families to believe in their children's potential and thousands of successful people to look for opportunities to mentor young talent in their communities. The most beautiful part of this whole story, Aaliyah said during her acceptance speech at the documentary's premiere, is that it's not really about me. It's about what happens when people see potential in each other and work together to develop it. It's about the power of education, opportunity, and believing in dreams that seem impossible. As the credits rolled and the audience gave a standing ovation, 3 families who had become one knew that they had not just changed their own lives, but had created a legacy of hope and opportunity that would continue inspiring exceptional achievements for years to come. How do you think your life would be different if someone had recognized your hidden talents and provided the support to develop them? Stories like Aaliyah's prove that extraordinary potential exists everywhere, waiting for the right opportunity and mentor. Share your thoughts about talent and opportunity in the comments, and subscribe for more inspiring stories that show what's possible when people believe in each other's dreams. The little girl who once spoke 8 languages to a shocked Arab millionaire had become a global force for cultural understanding, international peace, and educational equity. Her journey from cleaning lady's daughter to diplomatic advisor proved that with determination, opportunity, and the support of people who believe in your potential, any dream is possible. Their story continues to inspire families, educators, and successful individuals around the world to recognize that exceptional talent exists in the most unexpected places, and that the greatest success comes from lifting others as you climb.